experts to review that, be thoughtful about it, and engage with our global counterparts is valuable, and it's valuable for our geopolitical leadership.
And I second that, Madam Chairwoman. I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired, and the chair now recognizes the gentleman from Idaho's 1st District for 5 minutes for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Carr, I paid particular attention to your comments just a few minutes ago regarding the importance and the beneficial aspects of speeding up the process of approval across federal lands with NEPA, National Historic Preservation Act. And I actually have legislation that would do that, and that's in the works. So hopefully that we'll make some headway with that. But in a previous conversation, you had talked about a federal lands desk, if I recall correctly, and the possibility of a conduit there that might speed things up. And so this was not part of my original line of questioning, but is there anything further? It's been a while since this conversation has taken place. Is there anything further developments on this, on the federal lands desk, or is this something that we need to take further steps for here?
I think we need to continue to move forward. There's a lot of infrastructure ideas that we can do. For instance, we streamlined a lot of rules at the FCC that apply to small cells, which is one type of technology. We need to extend those to more technologies. And the federal lands desk, I think, would help as well, because Congress has taken a lot of stabs at streamlining the permitting process for federal lands, but a lot of these agencies like Forest and otherwise, they have important day jobs as well, and they just don't get around to this quickly enough. So I think if we had a place at the FCC where folks could come and help dislodge some of those applications, I think it could be helpful.
So it's particularly pertinent to my state. We've got 2/3 of land mass approximately where that's an issue. I've also heard about backlogs as a concern, specifically within BLM, Forest Service. Are you hearing anything like that that might be slowing down the process or the channels?
We hear about this constantly. I've visited places all across the West where you'll go to a laydown yard, an outdoor warehouse, and they'll have multiple antennas sitting there, many, many miles of conduits sitting there. So the hard part of getting all that equipment out there and purchasing it is done. And they're just sitting there waiting on approvals from the government to get out there and build it. And I think that's a real big problem. The further west you go, the higher percentage of federal lands. If you pick a spot to build and it just happens to be federal lands, it can take you 2 times longer than if that plot of land happened to be privately owned. We got to close that gap.
Appreciate that. Chair Rosenworcel, did you want to get comment on that?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge this is a good point. Across the country, about 1/3 of our land is owned by federal authorities. It is the least built out land when it comes to communications. And I believe it was in the Middle Class Tax Relief and Job Creation Act that Congress required the GSA to set up a uniform form for all of our federal agencies when a provider wants to approach them because they want some construction. I think that form is called Form 299. But the deadlines on that form are long. They can take 270 days to respond. Just to be clear, the FCC's deadlines for states and localities are 90 days and 150 days. I think we should expect a faster response time from our federal authorities, and I'd encourage you to look into the status of Form 299.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you. I'd like to shift gears just a little bit. This has been touched on as well, but I hear feedback on it. I want to ask Commissioner Carr if he can expound on this a little bit. But this is regarding the effect of the Title II proposal and the impacts on small and rural providers. We have a lot of those in my state, but I'm hearing the possibility of price controls. That's a concern in the industry. And the potential impact on these smaller and rural providers. I want to get your feedback on that. Is that a real concern? And what should we be doing about this?
Thanks. I think price controls as a policy matter is the absolute wrong direction, because we need to be attracting billions of dollars across the country into these networks. And there's a risk out there. The FCC in its digital equity order opens the door to rate regulation at the federal level, even though it disavows it in the separate Title II decision. But you're seeing a number of states, New York being an example, that are trying to impose price controls on their own. Similarly, you see the Commerce Department, the Biden administration, pressuring states, Virginia is one example, Tennessee is another, to adopt price controls, even though the law that you passed here in Congress told Commerce Department no rate regulation. So there certainly is this latent and growing effort to impose it, and it's a policy and legal mistake as well.
Thank you for that. Chair Rosenworcel, this has got to be really quick, and I can follow with a written question as well. But can you speak very quickly to the possibility of improving the process of adding entities to the FCC's covered list?
Well, and again, since
The
gentleman's time has
authority was
expired,
given
you might
by
want to
Congress to